present moment, if we were to vote no, then the Barnett formula where Scotland gets its funding will go, and Scotland will lose £4 billion. That will see huge cuts and things that we view as sacrosanct we won't be able to fund. Equally, we become independent, we get control of our own resources. We've still got debt to pay back that we'll have to inherit from the UK, but we'll still be able to grow the economy. We'll probably have an increase of £4 billion. Doesn't mean we'll be able to land in milk and honey or anything such as that, but we'll be better. Scotland has been in surplus, for years. We contribute more to the UK than we get out, through the oil revenues and other aspects. So I think, we are at a junction, and it's a choice of two futures. Some people thought, well, why we should just stay as we are. Well, we're not going to be able to stay as we are, because Cameron, Miliband, Boris Johnson, they're taking us in a direction where they'll cut the funding and we'll have policies imposed, where they're rolling back the welfare state that I grew up in, that my father and others fought for. Or we can go in a direction that I think would be a better direction, where we decide not to spend on weapons of mass destruction, to create a fairer, more equal society, to create a society much more like the Scandinavian countries. And frankly, I think Scotland's got a lot more in common there, even in just how our geography and demography is. England's now a country of huge urban conurbations. Greater London, Greater Manchester, East Midlands, Birmingham, and all the places that run together. Even tiny Weir, Teesside in North East England. Our biggest city is 500,000. London is double the size and population of Scotland. We've got much more in common with things like Sweden in terms of how you would provide things, not in terms of the English language and fish and chips and watching EastEnders, but in terms of how you would configure matters. With the likes of Sweden, where you've got Stockholm, Gothenburg, Malmo, Norrköping, and then you've got rural areas, because we've got Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Dundee, East Kilbride, Paisley. Then you've got wee towns, then you've got the islands, then you've got the archipelagos. And therefore, how you do things in Scotland has to be different from how you do it down there. But I think we're at a choice of two futures, and one gives us hope, the opportunity. It doesn't mean you won't make mistakes, but we'll sort them out. The other gives us years of austerity and probably the unwinding, unravelling of the welfare state.
Thank you.
Do you feel the current prison system is effective?
That's a good and hard question. It's effective in one criteria. People don't escape. There hasn't been an escape from Scottish prison, not in my tenure, but in many a year. And obviously, one of the key matters is to keep people secure. It comes back to the points made by some of your colleagues over there. What we haven't yet managed to do is to break the revolving door. So what we've always viewed is that you've got to Scotland, an independent Scotland even, is not going to be a utopia. There will be people who will commit offences, and we have to have a prison system. It should be for the right people. That's why what we've tried to do is to make sure that those who go into prison are those who have to go into prison. There's some offences can only be dealt with by a prison sentence. If you stab somebody, if you rob an old lady of her savings, there is no alternative. You are going to jail. We're not going to, hang you because we don't believe in the death penalty, but you have committed an offence that is so severe. The way our society addresses it is by custodial sentence. What we've got to stop is people going in for short sentences, for minor, trivial matters, where they're not a danger to our community, where behaviour is unacceptable, it's got to be punished. And so what we've got to do is to make sure that prison is for those who need to be there, who we need to keep safe and secure, who we can work with and try and address their problems, whether it's anger management, violence, sexual issues, all of these situations, lack of education. If you have somebody for, in the prison service, if you Google on their website to tell you, if you have somebody for a short sentence, prison can't really do very much with them. And the reason is it takes them something like 8 weeks to book a prisoner in, as they would put it. And it takes them 8 weeks to book them out. Probably the same in school. You've got to work out, if somebody comes into prison, do they have a drug addiction, do they have an alcohol problem, are they a veteran, have they been in the services or whatever? That you don't get worked out in an hour or even a day. You have to work out, well, what's their educational attainment? They might say, well, I left school at 14 or whatever. Well, can they read or write? All these things. So it takes you a good few weeks to get somebody in. And then, to try and avoid the revolving door, it takes you weeks to start preparing. Well, have they got a home to go to? Is where they go? And have we made sure that we can get them a prescription? Because if they come out on the Friday and they need a methadone prescription. So But that takes you at 16 weeks. So if you're not going into prison for more than that, all you're doing is containing people. Prison does a good job in keeping them secure, but they can't address their underlying problems, and that's why what we've got to do is to get a penal policy when you go to prison, when you commit a serious offence, you're going for a reasonable period of time. The only short sentences we support and think should come in, sometimes in domestic violence, to give respite even just to usually the woman who's suffering from it, get them out of the house. Just get them out of the house, detain them. Other than that, then give them a community payback order, make them, atone for their crime by contributing back, work with them to address the addiction, the lack of education, the drug problem, all these issues. So that's where prison works in keeping folks secure. If it's going to be able to do its job, then to some extent we've got to get some of the flotsam and jetsam out, because prisons have to deal with everybody. It's not meant to be funny at all, but we now have an issue in prison with elderly prisoners. Understandably so, because a lot of these people have committed offences against children. They've stolen people's childhood, they've made their life a misery, but we're catching up with them. Whether they've committed many years ago, whether it happens now, they're going to get punished. There's a particular wing in Dumfries Prison where everybody on that wing is a septuagenarian or an octogenarian. I was laughing when I was down there because they can't double them up in cells because there's rights and the rheumatism. They can't get up on the top bunk. They laugh about that. But this is a prison. In the next wing, you've got youngsters who are a bit of a handful, who are, can be violent and aggressive, and yet prison officers have got to go from dealing with somebody who's on the brink of dementia, some of them are there, and then deal with people who, are violent. That's why I've got great admiration for the prison service in Scotland. They have to deal with people who have real problems through drink or alcohol. They also have to deal with serious organised crime and organised gangs. So I think prison does a good job in very difficult circumstances. To allow them to do a better job, we've got to stop them having routine overloading with people that they can't do anything with other than detain for a short period of time, and allow them to actually work with people to say, you're here for 3-4 years, what can we do? And that comes back to the point I made about the young boy Paul Brannigan. He tells that I was at an event in Poland, Young Offenders, where they showed the movie. He said he just woke up one night, decided, that's it. This is the second Christmas I'm away from my family, from my child. I am not coming back. For him, he said, because Paul's not had a good education because I knew he grew up, but it was football. He concentrated on football, and to be fair, he's done remarkably well for himself. So prison's got to be able to try and focus and help people. Some people won't take that help, but we've got to be there for the ones that do want that help.
What kind of powers do prison wardens have?
Oh, I mean, I'm trying to think what powers. Basically, they have, it's, a lot of prisons are now quite high tech in that the days of, when you think of prisons in Scotland, and I hadn't been in much, prison, the problem which people have is more of an American movie of some prison warder